as we get into a conversation with Fanya Mambo, Kinovia, who is a lawyer and political strategist, has joined us this morning. Fanya Mambo, good morning.
Very good morning to you.
When the people who you hang out, when they call, what do they call you?
They call me Kinuthia, they call me Fanya Mambo.
But Fanya Mambo, nobody can say Mambo or Fanya.
Whatever, even Finya. Kimani Shungwa calls me Finya Mambo.
He does.
Yeah.
And perhaps part of that conversation will come in today as to why then Finya.
Yeah.
Either way, state of Kenya is what we're looking into. And thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
There are many things that are going on of people who have been arrested, those who may or may not have flown the country. If 210 million or 65 million shillings was found in a house somewhere, and somebody who was supposed to be or is, CEC has then, run off with that. For people who then will be charged with manslaughter when it comes to the falling of a building. I mean, these things are all happening in Kenya. And we've not even gotten to schools or Ebola. Mm-hmm. Part of what we'll be discussing today. You need to take a sip of something.
It's a full plate.
Yes.
We have hot water, thank you.
You're most welcome.
Yes.
Before we do that, let's go to Guinea with Dennis.
Yes, Guinea, a country that is rich in bauxite. You know what bauxite is used for? Bauxite.
Bauxite.
It's a mineral.
Okay, you tell me what it's used for.
It is used for processing aluminium or aluminum. Actually, aluminum is turning out to be one of the most expensive metals in the world today, because you think about vehicles across the world, aluminium is being used for that. But they're also rich in gold, diamonds, and iron ore, right?
Wow.
But let's go to the proverb. A person's true wealth is in the good they do in the world. How would you interpret it?
Yes, it is. It is indeed in the good they do in the whole world, because I have looked at, even yesterday I was at Amatanga, we underground somewhere. And every time when people are giving the eulogy, they never mention ameacha Prado Tatu, Nyumba Saba, and so on and so forth. In fact, they only say about your family and your legacy. Nobody mentioned about how many mansions Mandela had or anything of that kind. It was about his legacy. So I think he's just telling people that everything else we accumulate, like some primitive people I know in this country, it's futile. At the end of the day, it's very fickle. You'll be left with nothing. What has been left of big names in this world, even Martin Luther King, is what they did to impact on humanity. It's not how much they accumulated physically. Yeah.
Wow.
Well said.
Very well said.
Semi-auto vanity.
Vanity. Oh, it's vanity. Well, it's interesting because even as you say those things, I mean, do we need to do a list? It seems to be quite a number of things that don't seem to be going quite right. And we're saying, well, you need to get it right, but because there's just too much. Whether we're talking about, well, let's start off. Why would 65 million shillings be found in the home of somebody who is tasked with the responsibility of urban planning for the county?
Was it really 65 million?
Well, okay.
I have always told Kenyans, a million shillings is 1 kg.
Yeah.
Okay? So if you have 65 million, it's 65 kg. All those people, you counted them. I want Kenyans to challenge themselves. Take a minute, just watch that video. All those people, all that weight was 65 kg. Come on. Let me make it easy for you. Ile mtungi ya 20 liters, the one we carry for drinking water, that thing is about 20 kg.
Yeah.
So
When
just
it's
three
full.
of them.
Yeah.
It's the weight of 3 of them. How many people do you need? Fanya Mambo carries 2. So
You just need 3 people.
So if it was 65 million, forget science, forget everything else. Just common sense. I submit to every Kenyan. That weight, that load, that carrying capacity was not for 65 million.
Fanya Mambo, at times, some things just strike you. You're like, because you look at a bag of maize is 90 kgs.
Yes.
If you go to the loading deck, an individual carries 90 kgs.
Yes.
That means if you take 65 kgs and even just put them in a bag, one person is able to carry 65 kgs.
Yes. I was telling Kenyans, unaendanga wanainama pale, anaekelewa cabbage. 70, 80, 90 kgs. You should go, and they carry. So these 65 kgs that required so many people to carry, I dare submit this was more than 200 kg. And remember, the measure is 1 million is 1 kilo.
Right.
Yeah.
So I go back to the question. Why would, 200 kgs of cash be found in the home of a CEC for urban planning for the county?
From where I sit, I think that money belonged to someone else.
Okay.
It belonged to someone more senior than him in the county.
Okay.
And I think he was set up. And he took the bait. Remember, from sources inside City Hall, this person was about to be promoted into something. I think he was either vying to become a chief officer or a CEC. He was running for any one of the two. And let me put this off. He was running for one of the two. So there was that chance that he was going to be, and I think the powers that be at the county did not want him to be. So I see a case of someone who was set up. I'm not saying that he's innocent. The bulk of them drive cars that their salaries don't explain. But yes, it's just going to tell Kenyans one thing. Sisi wa Kenya tukiamua, if we decide today that we are going to visit some of these state officers, we will, in fact, we'll never need to borrow money for anything in this country. Because there, I just saw, again, the leader of majority, Kimani Ichung'wah, with a stash of cash carried in a harambe when they were doing over the weekend.
For a health system that works.
Yes, for a health system that works.
Yeah.
Very many of them were carrying a lot of cash. And I said, I think it's a high time to Julize kama wa Kenya. Isn't this the time we decided to raid the houses of some of these people? Just to do an investigation of how much money is available. Because the problem now we have of not having liquidity is because people have hidden so much money in their mattresses.
Yeah.
Some mattresses are more comfortable than others. So we need to start saying, who is this that we need to go and say hi to? Because we just need to check who is carrying cash in Harambes. That cash is not coming from bank accounts. We start saying, tulikuwa umebeba 5 million yesterday. It means mahali ulitoa 5 million, there's another 10, 20, 30. So we start visiting their houses and telling them this is our public resources. Because how do you carry money that is probably your 1 year salary? It is wrong. So we need to find a way to start asking very hard questions as Kenyans. Our watu wenye wana occupy public offices, I keep telling people, a 2024-2025 Prado is about 25 million shillings. And now that brings me to the question of the budget.
Yeah.
Why do we have a permanent secretary? Why do we have a director? Why do we have someone who is in procurement driving a 25 million car in this economy? What is their salary? So that's the starting point. We see one, we stop it on the road. Tell us, if you're a business person, it's okay, Peter. But you're a public servant in a 25 million economy in this, in that 25 million vehicle in this economy, we should be able to stop you on the road. Yeah, and tell you the maths is not mathing. Yeah. We need to get that radical now and start saying, no, wait a minute. Why is this going on? Why would a public servant 2-3 years ago, alikuwa anatembea na KNZD? 3 years, what magic has happened that you can afford a car worth 25 million and your salary is 200,000? Now that's the reason we are stopping you on the road, to explain to us that black magic that you are doing that is making you to be able to drive this car.
Because, I mean, we've seen the situation where the CEC found himself, Analo, right? 65 million shillings, 65 kg, now it's 200. There is that. But we will also not be lost to the fact that we've lived in a country where we've seen individuals, especially in the political class, who show up in Harambes with duffel bags full of money.
Yes.
And if we are serious in fighting corruption, it is good that we are seeing heads are rolling, Analo. But we equally need to go and raid each and every single person, because there's a time when President William Ruto stood and said, there will be no more Harambes in this country. The laws of the Republic stops you from transacting 1 million shillings through your bank account.
Yeah.
How is it then that we'll see people walking with millions of shillings in bags today and not raise questions?
Because they are thieves. And the system has enabled them to steal. And that is our money, it is not their money. And because they are all in government. Have you seen people in opposition carrying that kind of money? I haven't seen an opposition. I haven't seen Kalonzo with that kind of money. I haven't seen Rigathi with that kind of money. I haven't seen anybody who is not in broad-based carrying that kind of money. All those people who are carrying that kind of money are in government. So government is a cabal of thieves. Those are the people who are stealing from us. All the people, even the guy who was founded with whatever, whether it's 200 million or 265 or 250 or 65, that guy is also in government. And so it tells you it's our money. It's not, I wish these were business people, but this is our money. We are doing campaigns on a very unfair platform. I'm in a constituency where yesterday alone I saw one aspirant give 100,000 to 5 different women groups. And they are the people who are selling our state assets. Someone is given a contract to sell state assets, and then they come, they go to the ground, they're able to give 100,000 to each women group in one Sunday. These are the thieves we are speaking about. They are selling our nation.
And there's no answer to these questions. And what we're saying is that if you're going to have a right-facing country and a right-facing economy, the first you have to come to grips with the truth. And the truth of the matter is that if we're looking at a budget, which incidentally is going to be read on Thursday, is that there's budgeted corruption which takes place. Yes. For example, the issue has been brought up that there's 50 billion shillings in the budget today. In the budget, in the statement, that there's 50 billion shillings that's going towards the housing fund. So questions are being asked, housing levy fund, whatever the case may be. Questions are being asked. If that's the case, whereby you're taking money, exchequer money, and applying it to this fund, what happens to the money that you're subjecting Kenyans to that's coming out of their payslip every month? Is it a combination of a fund? Why would that money be there?
I'd like to explain to Kenyans something, because Kenyans are talking so much about finance bill, they are forgetting where their problem is. I want Kenyans to look at these two newspapers. This is the budget, this is the finance bill.
Yes.
So what these crooks do, they go and sit in parliament and create something they call a budget. Okay. And so they create a budget of 4.8 trillion shillings. In that 4.8 trillion shillings, there is money for State House, 17 billion. There is Kindiki's money for 8 million per day to fly. There is 11 billion for the president to fly around the country. You see, State House. Another 5 billion, I don't know, for local travel. That is the budget. And then we have the finance bill. Now, this evil thing we've been fighting called finance bill is supposed to make proposals on how we are going to raise money to finance this budget.
Okay.
So I've been telling Kenyans, our problem is not finance bill. Our problem is the budget. We need to come and ask, why is a PS rolling around in a 25 million shillings car? That's nonsense. Wanyang'anyo wapatue NZ, kila mtu wapatue fielder ya 2 million.
Panakuja na gari zao.
If you can't, no, you can be given a state car, a fielder, 2 million, okay? If you can't do in a Toyota fielder for 2 million, go and do whatever else that you're supposed to do, okay? So we are budgeting excesses. We are wasting money. First, we create an avenue to waste money. And then we come and kill Kenyans with a finance bill to help us finance a budget for 4.8 trillion. If we were to be serious as a nation, what we need to do first is to say, this budget has a problem. Okay? Gari ya PS ya 25 million, toa. President, sijui traveling, I don't know, 11 billion, toa. We remove. Kenya will be left with a healthy budget of 3.5 trillion, thereabout. Now, this finance bill will not be as punitive because it is not carrying a very heavy weight. So the biggest problem we are having is that kind of nonsense, where you look at the president now. We don't remember the last time he was on Kenyan soil. And you see the word tour, like to tour a place, and the word ruto. The only difference is how you write. If you take the word tour, you rearrange, you'll get ruto. If you take Ruto, you rearrange, you'll get tour. He's touring the world at an expense to us. It's so expensive to have him as our president touring the world. Sometimes I even think that we should wait for him at the airport. Ako Kandege, we ask questions. Because now we can't occupy State House, but we can occupy the airport. We wait for it to land. And we tell that pilot, if you land that thing in this soil again, we'll have a problem with you. Because the Pope, the head of the Vatican, one of the wealthiest institutions in this world, flies Air Italia. He's always taking commercial flights. Kwani KQ imekufa? We have so many Boeing 787s. I don't know Boeing what. I've been telling Kenyans, a standard Boeing flight has about 189 passengers. Okay? So 189 passengers. Let us imagine he's going to the US. The air ticket right now is about 200,000 per head. So tumwesabia 200,000 times 189. That is 34 million. So let us pay for him a complete Boeing, him and his entourage, nothing else, to Meikomboa. It's 34 million. He'll land in the US. He can stay there and wait. KQ will wait for him. And then once he's done, we pay another 34 million, 64 million, instead of spending 537 million in a luxury jet. So this thing of the Pope being able to fly Air Italia And the president of a country that cannot feed its own children, munapatiwa capitation ya 95 shillings per child, flying in such an expensive jet is what is killing this country. So our problem is not finance bill. Our problem is we are budgeting for rubbish. And part of that rubbish is getting a person whose name, if you change it, can become Tour, or if you change Tour, it can become Ruto. And he's always touring.
And here we are dealing with a lot of these issues. And while all of this is happening, you're getting into a week whereby the budget will be read and that you're going to be told, essentially, how the country is going to spend money. Part of that money is debt. We know that in the numbers, one of the sectors that gets easily the lion's share of these funds is education. Now, unfortunately, we are not able to see the end result of that kind of investment in this sector, whereby we're dealing with now 6 years. We used to, in 2025, we talked about 5 years of unpaid capitation balance. Now, we're talking about 6 years of unpaid capitation balance. For the first time in history, or maybe the history of 5 years, the first term capitation this year was paid before the term began. Well, that was a story because we got into second term and then now we're telling stories. But then we have an education sector that is really all belly up. Things are in the air. I mean, we have recommendations about what should be done in school. And now in the second term, as has always been the case, it's very clear that the second term has been the time where we see unrest. We don't see unrest in the first term. We don't see unrest in the third term. In the last 30 years, the unrest that has led to the fires that has killed children, that has now made commissions to sit and chairs to then, has been in the second term. It seems as though the indicators of these issues are very clear, but we don't want to deal with them. We then had a PS yesterday who then spoke with an essence of bravado, where he basically said, we'll shut all of you down if you bring this nonsense. We're not looking at the issue to solve the problem. We want to beat it down with a stick the way you beat a lizard. Why?
Because the PS does not know what he's doing in his job. I happened to have sat at the board of Nanyuki High School for 4 years. And when I was sitting in that board, I discovered where the problem is. The government wakes up and says 100% transition to high school without a commensurate investment in school infrastructure. So a school like Nanyuki that was supposed to have taken 350 Form 1s that year was given 495. So the principal had 145 boys extra. What do you do with them? Do you know the atrocious things that principals do? Because he has to keep his job. They partition the library. They put some children to sleep in the library. They partition dining halls. You should go to some of these national schools I don't want to mention.
It's happening
you
today.
You find places where children
the
are sleeping.
sanatorium.
Yes. Under the stairs. Some have, and then the bathrooms are not enough, the toilets are not enough. And then there is a government lacking common sense building a stadium worth 100 billion. Let me tell people something, because sometimes they think I make noise for nothing. The president was celebrating Madaraka. I don't know what kind of Madaraka that is. In a stadium that was alleged to have cost 4 billion. And by the way, I think taxpayers 4 billion is very special because when you look at that stadium, unatafuta 4 billion unakosa. But think about it this way. To build one classroom in this country costs 1 million shillings.
Yeah.
So when you have, a billion is 1,000 millions. I like explaining things to Kenyans in the easiest way.
Yeah.
1 billion is 1,000 millions. So when you have 1 billion, you have 1,000 classrooms.
Yes.
When you have 4 billion, you have 4,000 classrooms. If you take 4,000 classrooms and spread them across the 47 counties, congestion is over in our schools. In fact, that is classrooms plus dormitories. It is enough. So what we wasted in one stadium in Wajir, and people in Wajir will come and say, I'm fighting development. I'm not. Think about it this way. What's the maximum number of times a stadium can be used in a year? Probably 2 times a week. 2 times a week times 56 times 53 weeks is what? 100 opportunities of that stadium being occupied, if it is lucky to have 100 visits.
Meanwhile, what you're saying is
if you had built classrooms
or dorms,
they would have been occupied by children throughout the year.
To the number of 85 per county.
Yes. So 85 each county.
Because if you took 4,000 classrooms or dorms and spread them around 47 counties, you essentially get 85 per county.
Yeah.
You would have 85. If you took that, and this is 4 billion shillings. It's not 400 billion. It's not 40 billion. It's 4 billion. And that we're saying with that 4 billion shillings, if you applied it and said, we are going to put up a structure where children can sleep spaced out properly, or we're going to add more classrooms so that people are not doing ridiculous things like sleeping in a sanatorium or under the stairs, you would have 85 new ones per county. And then I would have to ask the question, when is the last time you saw a school being built in the country? The last time.
So that's the kind of madness that we are dealing with. And I strongly to suggest to Kenyans, really, if we are going to vote in 2027, and I believe we are going to vote, that Kim's kit for checking whether it is you who is voting, we adjust it a bit. It should have something for measuring common sense. So as you put your finger there, it measures whether your brain is up to standard to vote for us, a leader who has got common sense. So that if it measures and says you're a dimwit, we deny you an opportunity to vote because you're going to give us the wrong leaders.
If today you were asked, because I mean, we all know what your aspirations are, Fanya Mambo, because the school thing is an issue now. There are children, families who are now being given 200,000 shillings compensation, whereas the gesture, it's from the, okay, it's a good gesture, but you will never be able to bring back life. And we are still in the throes of the problem. What do you think needs to be done at the moment where we are having schools closing down every hour is what it looks like today?
I think a lot of things need to be done. First, those children are going through a very difficult time. School is not a place they look forward to. The amount of capitation that is being given to school, if it is being given and it comes late, is not enough. What principals have resorted to doing, and I have seen it firsthand, they look for the cheapest supply of maize. I'm even afraid that God has just been faithful. Our children have not died of aflatoxin poisoning. Our principals are looking for the cheapest supply of maize, not because they hate our children, but because that's how they keep the children in school. Kama ni maharagwe, wewe ukisema unauza 120 per kg na wewe unauza 110, anachukua ya 110 hata kama imejaa mawe, because that's the only way to feed these children. It's gotten to a place, even the cabbage supplier, you look for the cheapest, not the best. You know, at home when you go to the market, you look for the best cabbage you take home. School principals are having to choose the worst and the cheapest to be able to feed the children.
And this is the case.
Yes, it is the case. It is the case all over. And they are being sued all over. There are so many cases they have in court. They've not paid suppliers. Some their school buses are being auctioned because they've not paid suppliers. So first, let us reinvest in these schools in the right way. Let us make sure there's enough infrastructure for our children. Let us make sure they have enough toilets. Let us give them dignity, because what these people have actually lacked is dignity. There is no dignity for our children in our schools.
Do you think they need to put a pin in it and ask children to come home for a minute and let's just first and then see what needs? Do you think that needs to happen?
Not necessarily. I think what needs to happen, I have always said, is very simple. Let's have a law that says if you're a public servant, your children must go to public schools. They will put up toilets at night. They will paint those toilets. I'm telling you, the problem we have is our leaders prescribe something they don't consume.
True.
So they tell your children, go to school, but they take their children to schools where helicopters are landing. If you go to most of those schools where helicopters are landing, the bulk of them are children of people very senior within government spaces. So they don't understand what you're talking about. I told Kenyans that if I get to Parliament, and I will next year, the first thing we shall do is pray on the floor of the House that this MP, they have their own medical cover, which we pay for, by the way, to the tune of 10 million.
10 million, yes.
But they don't use our SHA. So all our MPs have to be on SHA, or all of us have to fit into that one. The minute you do that, you fixed healthcare. Yeah, and if you say that this public medical cover that you are paying for MPs is only valid if you take it to Kenyatta National Hospital, I am telling you, Kenyatta National Hospital will get a facelift at night. So the problem we are having is not our schools. The problem we are having is those who make laws, those who run this system, don't consume.
I mean, Fanya Mambo, I hear you speak, and that has been my prayer for a very long time, because there is no way as a cabinet secretary for health, you're telling me SHA is working when you are on a 10 million shilling comprehensive private cover. It just doesn't make sense.
Remove it.
Therefore, when you talk about where we find ourselves today as the state of the nation in matters to do with education, it is fact that I have a child in my house, Every time they come, I'm not feeding them githeri with weevils.
Yes.
They're eating the best githeri there is.
Yes.
That this child is equally not insane, that when they get to school and they see weevils, they will raise that as a problem.
Yes.
And nobody today wants to talk about these facilities as a problem, because even the PS is talking about it's 2,000 who have a problem, not everyone else, and we will not shut down the schools, instead of saying, we have not invested in education. We see a problem. And as a government, perhaps we have done wrong. We apologize. We will fix the mess.
I have a suggestion to the PS. Wacha kupigia watu kelele PS. Leo, I want you to go to a boarding school. Choose one near here, Kiragale.
And don't tell them you are coming.
Don't tell them you are coming. Go and get served the evils and eat. They will serve you githeri that has weevils. I want you to eat it for lunch. Surprise another school today where unajifanya PS or education. We are giving you a challenge. Surprise another school today. Go for dinner. Go sit. In fact, queue. Wacha isaviwe when the others are eating. Let's see if you can eat those cabbages. We have dehumanized our children so much, and then we keep shouting at them and telling them that you people are evil. I took my son to a national school, and every time he was in school, I had to give him extra pocket money to buy bread, just to cover for the rubbish of the kind of food that they give them in school. I'm sorry to call it rubbish, but it is.
It is.
We have treated our children in this school like prisoners. Even prisoners are not treated that badly. And then you come and say wanachoma dormitory. Wanachoma dormitory, upeleke mtoto wako akule huko. All the MPs, stop, making noise in parliament. Take your children, look for these schools, take them there, insist they have lunch there. Wataumwa na tumbo wiki mbili. Our children have developed very resistant stomachs. Let me tell you. The cooking oil that is being used in most of these schools, unaona kile kia yellow, the very sticky one with a lot of hydrogen, the hydrogenated one, that one. That's the one that is being used. You go to schools, when they cook, munasema top layer. Top layer ni nini? Is the concentration of all the rubbish that was in that oil coming at the top of the food. Because that oil is really bad. And these children are being told, don't go on strike.
Yeah.
I am not advocating they should go on strike. All I'm saying is, if what our children are getting is really good, let us start with parliamentarians taking their children for lunch in these schools unannounced. Let us start with having a day. UPS, if you have a son who is 17, 18, take him to spend a night. By the way, what they've done, beyond starching them in dormitories, they don't allow you to see because they put them in triple deckers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Triple deckers. So tunasema wewe minister of education, you think you can make noise at people? Take your child to go and sleep in triple decker. Alala hiyo juu aote vile anaotanga kwa hiyo kitanda yake 5-star. Ataanguka na kichwa chini the
or in the
morning.
corridor.
Even sleeping is a skill. You just have to learn how to arrange your body properly because unalala huko juu kama nyani. So we cannot come and demonize our children and say they are bad. We have terrible leadership at the helm of the Ministry of Education that is not in touch with the challenges that our young children are going through. And I have to sit here as their advocate and speak for them and say, our children are having problems. And their problems are genuine. They are not mad. They need someone who will listen to them. They need someone who will be empathetic. Put yourself in their shoes.
And somebody
Their
who
toilets
perhaps
are
will,
pathetic.
well, let's not even get there, because somebody who will then create a balance between, because we do know at the same time, and this is one thing that has been used as an excuse, the children that we're dealing with. Let's take high school boarders, leave alone the fact that, we're putting children in boarding school at the age of 9, which for me is a whole different conversation. But here we are. Let's look at high school boarders between the age of 13 and then 18, right? That these in these adolescent years, they're still forming, they're still socializing. This is the secondary level of socialization for these children. So we can understand that sometimes they can make this up, but there's some fundamentals that you cannot run away from when they open their mouths to say certain things that we have for the longest time said children should be seen and not heard. But in this case, we are saying, come on, the way the world has changed, for goodness sake, you introduced an entire curriculum that depends on them speaking their mind, and then you want to muffle their voices later on. We can understand that there are people who will be over demanding, but if you get the general consensus across board being basic things like, listen to us, that for God's sake we should not shower with dirty water, for goodness sake, can we have a meal that makes sense?
I saw kids who said they go to the river for water.
Can we have Fanya Mambo? Can we in June? Let us be very clear about some things here. That there are children today who are saying that in a class, because we know that there are some schools who admitted 1,200 grade 10
Yes.
this year.
Yes.
They're sitting a major KNEC exam this month, this June.
Yes.
They don't have the books. The same PS was in Nakuru, and he said, by that time, you'll have the books. Today is the 8th of June. Those books are not there. How do we reconcile these things without saying that children are just being over-demanding and that they're making a lot of noise? If one of the things they complain about is the books, it's not even about the weevils, it's the books. They're saying, okay, fine, give us the books that we need to write this exam, and we still don't have them. What are we doing?
I think to start with, 90% of parliament is mad.
Oh, wow.
90%. There's only 10% that is sane. Explain to me why it was announced that they allocated 95 shillings per child per term. 90 days is the term. You've been given 95 shillings. That's a shilling per day. And then the same people allocated State House 48 million shillings per day. That loss-making outfit, when we were selling loss-making parastatals, I think State House should have been the first. It's a loss-making outfit where we put in money and get no value out of it. So, for me, the fact that even the Ministry for Education never raised that concern, that we have a child who is being allocated 95 shillings to maintain books, buy books, cover books, pens, biros for 90 days, and then we have a State House that is inviting Wakorinos, is inviting all sorts of people to come there and get 10,000 shillings a day, is being allocated that kind of money. The problem we have, I think, and that's why I said I want to go to Parliament, is because we shall not allow some of these things to pass on the floor of the House. They shall not simply be allowed to pass on the floor of the House. You can't begin to explain to me that you have a brain that exists in your head that allocates 95 shillings to a child to use for 90 days and 48 million shillings to State House to use in one day.
And that even the 95 shillings you're talking about does not get there on time anyway.
If it does.
And even if it did, what would it do?
What did it do?
How much is a 32-page exercise book?
I mean, the political class, they live in this country and they know these things. It is lack of political goodwill that you find ourselves in this position today. Because talk about capitation not getting to schools on time. Talk about investments in infrastructure as well. We are fighting with that. I have not seen any school that has come up in the recent years anywhere where I've lived, And this goes to speak about the leadership in the country that does not care about its people but themselves.
I think we can speak about this administration and you will get mad, I have never seen an administration that has got such great depths for bad things. You think they've sunk low, then they sink lower, then they surprise you at how much lower they can sink. And before you can even imagine, they always come up with ideas which are bad. Ideas that are terrible, and then you think they are painful, they go even deeper. So I have gotten to the place where I have said, I no longer speak to this administration. I speak to their supporters. I ask them, are you normal? Okay. Do you need psychiatric help? Is there something we can do to help you? Because when I look at some of those supporters, I tell them, I don't think William Ruto is the problem anymore. That one we all agreed as a nation. Now we are at a place where we are saying, those people who follow him are the ones who have a problem. And those are the ones we are saying, if you're counseling psychologists, ukipatana na mtu wa tutam, unamsimamisha, talk to them nicely. Don't be bad to these people. They probably are not even aware that their brains are not working very well for them. Assist them, be nice, talk to them, give them counseling, give them help. These are people who even need prayers. Because the problem is not the leaders anymore.
Okay.
It's those people who follow them.
I mean, it's interesting that you say that, because then we're crossing over and it becomes more subjective, that we're dealing with things that actually go deeper.
Yeah.
And then just when you thought it was safe to get out of the water, there's aerial footage that has been taken of an area around Nanyuki whereby it seems as though the construction of this quarantine and isolation facility it continues, despite the fact that there's a court order in place where the court has given conservatory orders that you shall not continue with the construction of this place. But still...
This is where I hold the mic nicely. Saying, I think I have changed my mind about Ebola. I think as a nation, we are okay. We are comfortable. We are actually capable. Let's think about the capabilities of us as a nation. And I think I invite this Ebola now. I have stopped fighting it. Let's agree. You see, the leader of this battalion that is saying we need to have Ebola in the country is a botanist. He studied leaves and insects. He has decided to treat Ebola as one of the leaves or as one of the insects that he studied at the university. And because of that, I think then we have the capacity to handle Ebola. He's deputized by someone who spits fire at any problem that comes. Fire, see fire. So I think we can handle Ebola by just declaring fire upon it. We just be declaring fire at Ebola. Every time we see, just make a very high-pitched, Ebola, fire, see fire. We'll be able to deal with it. Now, Americans, just be comfortable when you come to this country. We want to assure you will not be hungry. We have a machine that makes 1 million chapatis every day in this country. For those who don't know, it only exists in this country. So we shall feed you. We have 1 million chapatis for you every day. And by the way, for you Americans, in Kenya, chapati goes with something called madondo. We have a lady who is called Oamavosho. She gives beans to everybody. All her problems are resolved with beans. She's from somewhere in Murang'a. So we want to assure Americans that we have enough beans for you. And by the way, beans are not bad when you have Ebola. Because zake haziivi, they cause bloating of the stomach. And when your stomach is bloated, it means that as you lose blood from all openings, there's one opening that is not going to lose blood. That is going to help us in Ebola. So we are equipped for Ebola. I dare submit to you, we have even thought about the entertainment. The world record holder for twerking, twerking. The world record holder for twerking is at the Senate. She's a senator in this country. So we are going to send her there to entertain those Americans. We have the capacity to handle this. She can go there and dance for them. She's holding it for the 3rd year in a row. She's going to entertain them there. Now, we've also got a young person. He went to this Bunge la Mwananchi University of East and Central Africa. And he studied there for 3 years, and now he has a PhD in facilities management. We sent him to try and manage one of our hospitals in Eastlands. He's doing so well. That hospital is flourishing since that young man went there. We will send him to Nanyuki to try and manage that facility for the Americans. So don't worry. We have a facilities manager, alisomea Bunge la Wananchi, akona PhD in facilities management. By the way, since he went to Mama Lucy, we've had women who did a CT scan. It showed they had one baby in the stomach. They are delivering 3 years ago. Now, finally, we also have an engineer in this country who can help us deal with corona. That engineer went to a school near South B or South C, and he left with a transcript that read a woman's name and he never noticed. And that engineer is called Mukarabati. Any problem you have with your aeroplanes, any problem you're going to have with your vehicles or anything, he's an engineer who does all sorts of engineering. He's going to karabati those things for you. So Kenya is equipped to handle Ebola. All I'm saying is bring it on. We can handle. Tunaye Oscar, Oscar. Tunaye Oscar, hamtamweza. And we have all that team. We can sing for them. They will help them to deal with this coronavirus. So Kenyans, be confident, be happy. We can feed them with 1 million chapatis. We can give them the maharagwe haivi. We have someone to entertain them. She's at Senate. She holds the world record for twerking for 3 years in a row. Guinea Wase retain, and so on and so forth. So let Corona come. It's Ebola. We'll deal with it. We'll deal with it. There's no need of fighting. What I'm trying to say in many words is, this is happening during the subsistence of a court order.
Yes, it is.
All they're trying to tell you is, to them, court orders are papers, which they have no respect for. And they don't care to respect those papers. So whatever we do, we are doomed. We are doomed. They will do it.
Fanya Mambo.
Yeah.
You are a lawyer.
Yes.
Court orders are not suggestions.
To them, they are.
The country today that is investing or setting up that facility, when a judge speaks in the United States of America, everybody listens to it, including the president of that country. Why is it that when a court speaks in Kenya, the nation that respects court order at home does not listen to judges in Kenya? Is it because the leadership of the country has allowed that? Is it because the United States has seen how we have disrespected our court orders that they see no reason of respecting them?
I told Kenyans, whom did you vote for, by the way? You guys, whom did you vote for? Why are you aware of what you were voting for? Because this is what you brought upon yourselves. I keep saying I voted for Azimio because I saw this malady. This was a disaster coming. It was a catastrophe. It was the highest form of evil that would have ever been meted upon this nation. And if you think you've seen bad, you haven't seen bad. So I'm just telling Kenyans, unfortunately, kuna mahali inafikanga hata sisi hatuna nguvu. Nguvu inaisha. Because this Kenya Kwanza administration is doing so many bad things on all fronts. By the time you're dealing with this one, they are doing this one. In fact, it gets to a place first you take a break to observe. If you read yesterday's Business Daily, there's an article there now. The country has decided they've sold everything. They've sold parastatals. They've sold... The only thing remaining they haven't sold is your data available on eCitizen. And they go on the papers and say now they want to sell your data. Wameuza kila kitu. Wamekopa kila mahali. Go to yesterday's, and I'm talking of Sunday, Business Daily. There's a whole article there on how government is going to sell that, the data, your data on eCitizen. Hiyo tu ndio kitu imebaki. Then the last thing they're going to sell is what? They'll come for your slippers. That's when we shall wake up and realize we don't have a country here. So that's where we are. If you're thinking court orders is a big problem, they have conjured another evil scheme to sell your data to NGOs and companies that need data. Of course, they'll tell you, Arida, you're not going to sell your personal information. Who told you? Who told you? If they can wake up and sell Kenya Pipeline, a very strategic national asset, and they don't feel a pinch about it, who told you they won't end up selling your personal data? That's the only rider they are putting there.
To what end? Because for a sale to happen, okay, for a sale to happen, there is an exchange, right? And there's money that comes in. Where does it go? You should then be able to see where all of these things go. Education, perhaps the odd road here and there. The infrastructure fund, we're already being told that, it's going to set up mega infrastructure in the country. We're told that this is where all of these things are going, Fanya Mambo.
But we have seen it's in people's houses. That was just a tip of the iceberg. That's a very small guy in the grand scheme of things. So you can imagine what the other guys have. These are guys who have containers of money. That was just a small player in the game of those who have money. We have better players in the game. And you can imagine there are people with containers of money in this country. This thing of saying that we are not able to pay debt, no. I keep saying, and this is where I completely disagree with those people who say we are not going to pay debt. I keep reminding Kenyans that 65% of our debt is borrowed locally and internally. And what I mean by locally, when you go and buy a treasury bond, when you go and buy this kind of, the government things, you go and buy a T-bill, what you are doing is you are lending to government. So when you hear irresponsible leaders saying, we are not going to pay debt, we shall never pay debt, I usually submit as Fanya Mambo Kinuthia. I will not let a Kenyan who has worked so hard and invested in treasury bills go unpaid. What we need is a rational conversation about debt. And to start saying he worked for 50 years, he came and invested 1 million shillings or 2 million shillings in T-bills. And then there's someone who is coming to say, we don't owe, we are not going to pay. I think Kenya owes. And Kenya needs to pay. But we shall pay the right people. And we shall start with our local people. The people who we owe locally. We owe some of our banks. Some of them are thieves, we know. But some of our banks have also lent genuinely. So there's a lot of interest in our debt that people don't want to talk about. More than 60% of our debt is locally borrowed. And we have to be responsible when we speak about not paying debt. Because what you are doing is you're discouraging somebody who wanted to invest in government tomorrow. I keep telling people the least indebted nation in the world is Somalia. The other least indebted country in the world is Zimbabwe. Countries like Japan are indebted to the tune of 241% of their GDP. The US is indebted to the tune of 120% of their GDP. The UK more than 100%. Germany about 95% of their GDP. We are indebted to the tune of 68% of our GDP. And by the way, the richest company in the world is Volkswagen. They are the most indebted company in the world, followed by Toyota. They are the second most indebted company in the world. The poorest companies in this world, ni tuingine tumeregister hapa business services. Zenye they owe nobody, but they also have nothing. So let's not present debt as a very bad thing. It's a conversation that people never want to have. Do you want to be like Somalia that nobody can lend to? Or do you want to be like Zimbabwe that is not indebted? Maybe they're indebted to the tune of 4%. I would rather be like Japan that is indebted to the tune of 241% of their GDP.
But then there is a requisite.
But what they do, theirs is 241%. Those guys who are telling you debt is bad, like the US, are indebted to the tune of 121% of their GDP.
But you can see what they do with it. Is this
That's
the reason?
exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
That we shall have a responsible conversation about debt. This populist conversation that people want to throw us and say we are not going to pay, we won't pay, debt is bad. Who told you debt is bad? That is good if it goes to the right use. That is good if it is handled by people who mean well. Debt is not an entirely bad thing, but also let us not kill the investor confidence in this country. If we come and tell Kenyans we are not going to pay debt, they will never buy treasury bills. They'll never buy treasury bonds. They'll never invest in government. I am a person who is looking at becoming a member of parliament in an opposition that is going to form government. And we don't want to have a government that can't have funds to run, or a government that even Kenyans don't have confidence in. So we have to build that confidence and tell you, for the genuine debt that we owe, we will pay. For the debt that it was acquired illegally, did not hit this country, was not used for this country, we will not pay.
Fanya Mambo, these are conversations that each and every single Kenyan must have. Whether you're talking about wastage that we see both in national and county governments, whether we talk about the education crisis that we find ourselves in today, we talk about the health situation, Ebola, and also just our overall healthcare system in the country. These are conversations that each and every single Kenyan must be invested in. Do you reckon that Kenyans are having these conversations? Because we will have this conversation in the studio, but kwa ground, are Kenyans speaking?
The country that is losing 30,000 Kenyans to malaria every year, the country that is losing 10,000 Kenyans to pneumonia every year, the country that is losing 25,000 Kenyans to cancer every year, the country that is losing these thousands of people to things like dysentery, diarrhea, amoeba, is the country that has invited Ebola upon itself. 30,000 of you, kakitu kanaitwa mosquito, you can't manage. It's killing 30,000 of you. Now you brought yourselves Ebola. Pneumonia too. Hii pneumonia tu inaletwa sijui na nini. It's a bacteria, but we tend to believe it's cold. We can't manage that. And we are here inviting Ebola upon ourselves. I think the conversations in health are supposed to be in that direction. That if you go to any level 4 hospital today, and you don't find a ward where people are sharing a bed, just come for 10,000 shillings. It's that simple. And that's the nation that is saying we're equipped to handle Ebola. Because they have somebody who will shout fire, see fire at Ebola, and another one who thinks that they are an engineer in everything. I think when we send such wrong people to go and represent us at the table, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. That some of the people who we are debating on to whether we should have Ebola or not are talking experts. Others are engineers who left school with a result slip that read the name of a lady and they never discovered. Others are here, they declare fire upon everything. Others are botanists and they are telling us that Ebola is good for us. So what do? We leave it to them. Others, the only university they went to is Bunge la Mwananchi, and now they are running a whole hospital. And Mungu saidia.
So, I would like us to just, you stay with us for a few more minutes after 9 o'clock. We're going to go to the news. But some of the things that we need to talk about is the democratization of opinion. And over the last couple of weeks, few days, it's been clear that the voice of Kenyans doesn't matter. And how are you going to take from that feeling and to then say that your voice must be heard when it's been made very clear? 2 instances that have been spoken of in the last few days where the president said he allowed a certain thing to happen in a democratized state. That he allowed something to happen of a nature like this. So we could be talking about Ebola today. Yeah, he's just one of the examples. Yes. The other example is the CS for Health, Aidan Dwale, said, we don't need to consult the citizens. This is a matter. We will not. We will not consult. This is not about your opinion or anything. Basically throwing it back in your face and saying, we're not having this conversation with you. We have done something and that is the way it's going to go. So when we talk about spaces where you talk about Kenyans need to actually be involved in these conversations and the powers that be, and I put those air quotes up because if the power is in the people and the people are sovereign and the people have basically been told we don't need your opinion on these matters that could essentially affect you, then you want to ask the question, where are you going? And everybody's been shouting and touting about that in the next year you need to vote, you need to speak, you need to have your voice. Well, surprise, surprise. The folks in the driver's seat are telling you, well, your voice can be yours at the dinner table and not necessarily out in the open. We'll come back and we'll talk about this a little bit because then the question is today, if you're going to have an opinion about some of the things that are happening in the country and you're being told that your voice doesn't matter, where exactly do you sit? We'll take a break now. We're going to go to the news and come back and discuss some of these issues. And like I said, it's the state of the nation and there are many, many, many things that seem to be boiling at the same time. We'll go through them with a fine-tooth comb right after this. Good morning.
This is The Situation Room the only way to start your day.